to yet again another Google TV Office Hours Hangout, and I'm Crispy, and this is Christian, and we're joined right now by Leon, who's going to give us a demo in a short bit. It's been a little while since we've done a Hangout. There's a good reason for that, mostly to do with all of us traveling at the same time. So 2 weeks ago, I was traveling, you were traveling, Les is traveling, Paul's traveling, and Osama was traveling. So there was literally no one to really be around to do the Hangout. Not that we need to do it here, but I think the problem was we were just scattered and busy. So hopefully that won't happen again. We're going to do one more Hangout in 2 weeks' time before we stop them for the year and wait till 2013 rolls around and start them up again. So
that is if the world doesn't end in December.
That's true. The Mayan calendar does predict our doom and destruction on, I think, December 22nd.
Something like that. So
we're guaranteed to have at least one more Google TV Office Hours Hangout before the end of the world, these being the end times and all. So with that, we've actually got a lot of...
I think we got V3 right before the world ended. So
we did. Actually, that's the first news item I was going to bring up. So version 3 of Google TV, the platform has launched on the LG devices that are out there. So this is a pretty big and significant milestone. Those of you with Sonys and Vizios and Logitech, I don't think the Logitechs, are they being updated?
Well, we pushed, I think, some new YouTube app and the new TV Movies app, but not the full capabilities that we have on the V3.
Right. Okay. So there's, pardon me, there's a partial update that's going out to the earlier generation devices. The ARM generation devices, it'll be rolling out in the next little while. Overall, but it's kind of big and exciting. We've got a lot of UI improvements. We've got all the things that we kind of talked about at I/O.
Yeah.
You know, to recap, I think some of the big ones are...
I think for users, if you just use it in your living room, it has become a little bit more, I want to say, user-friendly. The TV and Movies application is a little bit easier to browse. We keep talking always about things, how to optimize for D-pad, and so we try to experiment around with the UI layouts. So if you notice right now, the shelves actually are scrolling left and right. Before, when you go out to the right, you would open up a new window. The other thing that I personally like a lot is the little mini guide that comes up when you just watch TV and you press the guide button. You get an instant overlay with all the channel guide and movies and everything. And from a developer's point of view, so I've just, again, on Google Plus, replied to somebody who was, let's just say, discontent with the performance of transitions and animations on Google TV.
Well, you know, it's not unreasonable to expect, infinite, gigateraflop performance on a device that's sub $100.
Yeah.
But go on.
So if you take a look at the mini guide on TV, you'll notice it scrolls really smooth, and we have really nice transitions in there. It's not using native code, so I just want to stress that. It's actually all implemented in Android using the same APIs that are available for third-party developers. The only small trick, I want to call it, is we're using actually Opengl. So what this shows is there is some performance behind the graphics chip. You just have to get to it.
You can understand how to tap into it. It's not going to be the boilerplate cut and paste code that makes your app wonderful. You've got to dig in. You've got to geek out a little bit on this hardware.
I think it's a great opportunity for people to actually differentiate and do some really cool transition effects. Honestly, you're not going to do that for every screen in your app, but having one or two real focus point screens, like in the YouTube application, we have the little media carousel in the bottom where you can scroll through YouTube videos. That's also done in Opengl. It's really worth it. If you want to spend a little bit of time playing around with Opengl, you can do some amazing stuff.
Now, do you know if it's Opengl 1.0, 1.1, 2.0? Because there's a big difference between 1.1 and 2.0.
Yes, I think it's Opengl ES. I believe it's 2.
It's 2. So it's all the vector shaders and the fragment shaders, which is that's a whole world onto itself. That requires really digging into the graphic stack and understanding things. You're not going to get, boilerplate performance.
It's exciting. I mean, I have not played with shaders. That's on my to-do list for the Christmas holidays. While other people, eat good foods and visit families while they're playing with shaders. But I've played around a little bit with just basic OpenGL and just simple stuff like drawing a bunch of triangles on the screen. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I'm going to actually talk about this next week at NDevCon.
Yeah, Christian and I are both going to be there. Believe me, we're cooking up something real interesting. If you are lucky enough to have an NDevCon ticket, you're really going to want to come and see what we're going to be doing on stage. It's our hope that this will be talked about, let's say, in wide circles.
There will be Google Plus posts about it.
There'll be hardware porn, too.
Yeah, well, that's crispy.
Yeah.
He wants to take the covers off.
So I think you've actually already hit on this one. So YouTube, Google TV pairing. This is the next.
But that's cool, yeah.
Yeah. So there was an update that went out. Is it all devices? I can't remember. Or is it coming? Or
it's all a blur. It's definitely on the LG devices. I have it at home.
So you can essentially use your phone or your tablet to hunt for videos and throw them to your screen and on your TV, and it just plays. It's, I guess it'd be fun at parties and, hey, look at this cat video, or look at this Google TV office hours video. Completely unrelated, but still newsworthy. Hisense Google TVs are now showing up actually in Amazon. So yet another device that we've already alluded to and talked about before. Hisense is joining us. Hey, Les.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Just in the middle of the news, but we can pause here. How's Hawaii?
It's nice, actually.
Nice. It's raining here today in Mountain View.
We've had rain here.
All right, so yes, Hisense is available. Well, I should say it's showing up at Amazon. It says temporarily out of stock, so I don't know whether there was actually a batch that they sold out or if it's just sort of like you get your pre-orders in or get notified. But I know Amazon has it, so it must be coming soon. Voice search. This is one of the new things that kind of got rolled out. You can now control your LG TV with voice control off your remote, which is pretty awesome, especially for those who have thick, fat fingers like me who have trouble typing on small keyboards. This is a boon for finding all those episodes of Glee I want to watch.
It works actually surprisingly well. I was a little bit skeptical at first. I don't like to talk to my TV, but once I used it a few times, I prefer it over typing, even on the back of this little keyboard thing here.
Yeah. So it'll be exciting to see sort of how this gets used. There were some questions, I believe, about like our remote control app getting updated to include a voice feature because people want this on, the Google TVs that have yet to be updated.
I think Leon has it in his.
Yeah. So I was actually gonna use this.
You were going to segue there. Cool.
The segue, but thanks for calling it out, Les. Yeah. So Leon, since we have you on the line, I'm gonna ask you this directly. You have voice search already in your remote control implementation for Android?
Yeah, so I do.
And so where can people go and get that? And it's open source, right? You've open sourced your code?
Not every remote, so they can get that in the Play Store. But we've had the voice feature for quite a while, and it's one of the most popular features, actually.
Cool. So that kind of answers the question of the people who were, I believe, asking it on the Google TV Plus page. Because there's a Hangout tomorrow at around 3:30 to talk about voice control and voice features. So if you're interested in sort of the user end side of that, you want to check out the Hangout that's going on tomorrow. Last two quick pieces of news. Actually, we've already talked about NDevCon. So
we should talk a little more about it.
We should.
It's local in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
It's up in Burlingame, right by the Airport Hyatt. I think today you still can get tickets. Let us know if you really want to come.
If you're going to buy tickets,
codes.
Speaker codes. So you don't care. Okay, so if you use my last name, UCCELLO, You might still be able to utilize the coupon code. It should get you $200 off the ticket. So yeah, that's there. And you and I are talking for 2 sessions straight.
Yeah, Wednesday afternoon is all about Google TV.
Yes, from what was it?
I think 1:30 to 5 or something.
Something like that. Yeah, we've got a significant amount of time, and we've got a good show planned.
We'll be cook something up.
Yes.
It's all about the holiday season.
It is. We should just rename it the Home Cooking Show. Maybe I've said too much. All right,
well,
lastly.
If I may, Christian and I were there last year, and it is really got some of the best, most focused developers that I've seen in a while.
Oh,
you know,
we're gonna eat this up.
You know, it's very technical. Lots of folks who are really smart there.
I mean, I am always impressed. Mostly everyone I talk with at the conference is either a Android expert and author, or is I want to say, respected Stack Overflow personality. So it's really very technical, very deep dive Android expertise. So if you are an Android developer and you are somewhere local, I like it. I mean, it's to me, this is really a great event. It's one of the highlights of the year.
Cool. It comes almost directly opposite I/O.
Yeah, well, they also, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but they have 2 AndDevCon conferences per year. So there is a spring and a fall. As I said, I think it's a great gathering to bring people together.
Cool. All right, last item on the news, just sort of to bring us full circle. I alluded that there was some traveling going on. I was in Mexico doing S2S Google, which is This is Google. Very, very big audience showed up. I think there was almost 3,000 developers that showed up to this free event in Mexico. And we showcased and highlighted Google TV, got a prominent spot. I ended up giving 2 one-hour lectures there to packed rooms. I think the capacity of the rooms was like 380 people. Mm-hmm. Very receptive, very warm, welcoming people. I actually got into a drinking game on Google TV trivia afterwards, but that's for another time. And Les, you were in Colorado, I think, at this time too, weren't you?
Yeah. Paul Karff and I were in Colorado. We did Boulder Droids, and we also held a day-long session there, and we had about 40 some odd people for Boulder Droids and 20 some odd for the day long, and it was a really good session, and I think we'll get a lot of developers developing apps from that. You know, it was a very exciting thing.
Yeah, you sound a little worn out. Are you still recovering from all the activity?
No, I just actually I read in the morning. And so I just happened to be vertical, and I signed on and said, "Oh, you've been invited to a Hangout." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't realize that, but okay, I'll join in."
All right, cool. All right, so actually, there weren't many questions that I saw today. I guess everyone's kind of busy working on their television apps for Christmas, you know, trying to get it in the market.
It's the season.
It's the season, you know. Actually, there was an app that came up recently. They got some buzz. Maybe we'll talk about that later. You know which one I'm talking about. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess without further ado, let's go to this really cool demo that Leon has put together. I saw this and I was like, that's expletive awesome. So Leon, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Why don't you just sort of explain what you did, why you did it, and how it works, and let's see it in action.
Okay, so I've created a program that allows you to use your Microsoft Kinect sensor to control your Google TV, and you use gestures instead of the physical remote. So I think the best way to show it off is just to play the video. So let me give this a try. I've written a program that allows you to use your Microsoft Kinect sensor to control your Google TV. The Google TV is pointing on its home screen. Just below the TV, you can
So do you want to describe what's going on while this is happening?
Yeah, basically it's just Google TV showing off in the corner there is just the output from the device.
And so I see your gestures are moving the pointer on the screen.
Yeah.
Now, did you write that that screen software, or is that a package or something?
So it's a combination of some open source drivers and some software, but the gesture stuff and talking to Google TV is all done in my program.
And so, how do you communicate with Google TV in this example? So you effectively send any mode cursor position to the Google TV, or how do you control the cursor there?
Yeah, so I've written a library for any mode in Java that I'm using here, and so yeah, I am pretending to be basically the mouse. I'm sending a gesture to TV as though you know, moving your finger on a touch control on a physical remote.
So how do you find the usability, I guess, of gesture control?
Yeah, so that gets interesting. Let me get out of the video. So that's quite interesting. Because the easy part is doing, you know, the gestures with your hand, pretend to be a pointer, right? But now, you know, when you start navigating Google TV, there's more things you need to do, like, for example, selecting things. So I made a gesture where you kind of hold it in your hand and push it forward. It's like clicking on something. It gets more complicated, though. Now that you're, let's say, in an app and maybe there's a list of things you need to scroll through, well, now you need another gesture for that too, because just moving your hand is just going to move the pointer. It's not actually scrolling. So now you need to keep on coming up with gestures that will map to things that you would do on the physical remote, like even the D-pad stuff. How do you do left, right, up, and down? You need to kind of think about this in a very different way, because again, moving your hand is just going to move the pointer. It's not going left, right, up, and down like on the physical keys. So I've put some hooks in the code, and the program is really just kind of a thing for somebody to play with, because there are many ways, many directions you could go to kind of solve that problem. One gesture I put in the code is to kind of go back, and the kind of solution I came up with that was to hold up both hands, and then you go like back, and that's just putting back. But you can imagine coming up with your own kind of ways of doing that. It's just now you don't want to confuse moving this hand with, you know, moving the pointer. So you can see I'm already getting awkward here, aren't I? Just being able to do the gesture stuff. To really pull this off, I think you really need to rethink the Google TV UI to be much more gesture-based. There's simple things like, you know, things need to be bigger to be able to toggle it. So like a button, if it's a small button, for me to kind of move my hand and just getting the aim right is kind of tricky, especially clicking on things. Now, if the button was much bigger, which is what LG did with their UI, because they support a kind of a gesture-based UI, so their buttons on their main launcher screen are huge. So it makes it very easy to kind of point and click at things. But as you get into other types of navigation, like scrolling and other things, yeah, you need to kind of think about how you would do that in a gesture-based UI, because it's not just simply mapping the current way to gestures. It can get complicated.
So is your next project going to be writing a new home screen application to make gesture control a lot easier?
But it's not for gestures. It's something else I'm working on. But yeah, I mean, I open source the code, so anybody can go and play. The code should work on any platform. The real issue at the moment is that you still need a computer, because the gesture recognition and the communication is actually kind of heavyweight. The sensor doesn't actually do gesture recognition. It just gives you raw data. So you need a beefy CPU to kind of do that. And originally, I wanted to do this all on my little Raspberry Pi, but that poor thing just can't handle it. It's you're basically looking at raw video at 30 frames a second, and you need to figure out the gestures within that. That's a lot of heavy CPU load. So you need a laptop, and then you need a thick neck sensor, obviously. And then the code, you can just download it. Even if you don't understand the code, it's easy to download and set it up and just run it. And then hopefully, some developers will start digging into the code and start seeing, well, what gestures make sense for a TV. It's something to play with. It's not quite practical at this stage. There are some orientation issues and navigation issues in terms of making sure the pointer is always in the right place. But again, that's something that developers can kind of play with and see what makes sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is uncharted territory in a lot of ways. Like I know that the Kinect was Microsoft's play in the living room to get in gesture mode. Nintendo had their Wiimotes and the cameras built into their little Bluetooth devices, and Sony has their glowing wands, which are pretty cool. But I mean, all of them have different strengths and weaknesses, as do all, I think, gesture-based controls. I'm hoping that the future, with whatever new technologies are coming out, maybe we'll see some blended integration of all these things and LiDAR and I want to live in the future again.
I think one promising combination might be gestures with voice. That could be an interesting combination. Because
you mean like grunts and growls?
You could point at easily rather than saying, right? You can say that and point at it. So I think that might be a natural way of doing it rather than something else, some other combination of technologies.
Yeah, I personally wonder if it's actually physically possible that we could do eye tracking or something. Because with screens getting bigger, I can definitely look at sections of the screen. I could find like 6 or so sections of the screen that I can focus on with my eyes, and I don't need any control device at that point.
Well, as humans, we tend to use our eyes and see where other people are looking anyway, and gesture and give verbal sort of action to those gestures. So I think, yeah, maybe there is some combination here that could work.
So when I started this project, that's exactly what I wanted to do. The eye, fixing or figuring out where where your eyes are looking at. That is very complicated. So there are solutions for things that are close, like your screen. But when you get to some distance, like sitting in front of a TV, actually there isn't any commercial solution at the moment because it's so difficult then to pick up your eyes and to do that accurately. So originally, I was looking for an eye sensor, and I thought I maybe could hack the Kinect, but it's not quite there. The resolution you get is not good enough to pick up your eyes. So there is a company that's working on a solution, but even though they claim they have something for TVs, you still need to kind of sit quite close to the TV. But yes, that was what I was trying to do. I didn't want to do the gestures, so the connecting was kind of a fallback because the technology isn't there yet.
We'll see what the future brings with glass and all that other stuff. I
would think for an eye tracker, for a TV at 3.3 meters, the movement of the eye is so subtle that it'd be very difficult to pick up, even with a tracker mounted on your glasses.
It's just amazing to me always. I mean, when we try to do stuff like this and we look at how easy it is for actual, human beings to do that. When I speak with somebody from 5 feet or whatever, 2 meters away, I can tell if they look at me or the person standing next to me maybe less than a meter away. But for a camera or for a TV device, this is really still almost undoable.
Yeah.
Right, but it's difficult to tell if somebody is looking at your nose or your mouth or your ears. That's a bit more challenging.
Yeah, we're probably many decades out from full solution to that. But who knows? Maybe in the future everyone will be walking around with helmets on. So that could make things a whole lot easier. You know, just a target right over the head, or like how the Sims have it. You know, glowing diamond. It's your companion. I don't know. I'm going into the deep sci-fi realm there.
Do we have any questions today?
We don't have. Nobody asked anything in the dory, but you know, James Power did ask one in the plus page, which I'm going to bring up here because we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. James asked, "I'd like to hear a bit more about the OpenGL widget system Primetime is using. Is any of that open source? Could it be? My current animation woes are specific to fragment transitions. I'm not sure how to implement things in OpenGL." Well, that actually might speak to the first part of it. Let's see. It seems like it would require quite a large rewrite. Maybe I'm mistaken. Also, the feedback is pretty terrible at the moment. Sounds like it's coming from Mountain View. It probably is. I apologize for that. The space that we're in now has been torn down, I think, 6 times in the last 3 days to do various activities. We've had a photo shoot in here. We've had usability testing. We've had another hangout earlier. There was a meeting. Things got moved around. Things will be getting better. There's a new studio in the works. I have nothing official to announce, but the quality of these hangouts will be improving as we go forward. So keep tuning in. You know, provide us with feedback. That would be great. So let's go back to James' question here. And see what we can do to answer that.
Well, Les could maybe talk to that from Hawaii.
I'm going to mute to cut down on the...
Crispy was going to answer that instead of me. I tried. I'm still trying to open source an OpenGL library. We were trying for one idea and got blocked on internal stuff. So yeah, we feel your pain. We understand it. We'd really like to fix it, but we've got support of Google TV engineering. It's just I'll check in with the team that blocked us and see if we could do something else.
I have something to add here. So OpenGL is definitely something I'm extremely interested in, and I have a long background of graphics programming. I mean, this is why I got into programming, was games, and we're talking like old school Sinclair Z81s is the kind of stuff I was doing. Like
OpenGL Z81?
No. If we had OpenGL back then, I would be doing something completely different by now. But the point is, I'm digging into this, and one of the things that I think is probably worth mentioning, especially if you're kind of new to OpenGL, is that you know, there are 2 distinct flavors. There's the ES 1.0 flavor and 1.1. Those are very similar. And then you've got OpenGL 2. Now, in one, I'm just going to call it ES1. All right, that encompasses both versions of 1 and 1.1. In ES1, there's a lot of convenience methods that sort of do some of the heavy lifting for you in setting up your graphics pipeline and program compilation. There is a lot of convenience in what goes on there, and oftentimes you can write very functional code in your application to sort of make your frames render the way you want. If you start looking at the way OpenGL ES2 works, it's actually more complicated to set up, and there are less convenience functions. Everything's been sort of pushed into vector shaders and fragment shaders, right? Which, if you have no idea what I'm talking about with regards to shaders, that means you need to do some reading and some experimenting, and you know, it's worth the investment because these things translate into regular OpenGL. But the point I'm trying to make is you need to use a framework, a library framework on top of OpenGL ES2 to use it effectively. You're not going to write some huge game just in shaders, okay? So there are books out there. There's several good ones. some of the critiques of these books has been, oh, the author's just pushing their library or their framework with their book. These are good things. These help you get things done. Either write your own, and what programmer doesn't love falling into writing frameworks, or just like pick one that's out there and that's being used and kind of invest in it. I mean, it's still early days for a lot of this stuff, and we could go a long distance with it. So.
Okay, I'll just throw out one more point. Leon did some experimentation with OpenGL recently. Do you want to talk about any of that stuff?
Sure. Yeah. So I did a little experiment. In fact, I released it as an app called Overlay, which is in the Play Store. What I wanted to do was just simple graphics where I animate sprites, little images that move across the screen, and I did some testing on that. And this might be unique for the kind of style of app that I did, but I actually found that the Android canvas animation was better than OpenGL. So again, just, it's not a general thing. It's a very particular type of animation, but just moving images across the screen and animating them was significantly faster, at least on the Google TV devices. When I did the same test on my Nexus phone or tablet, they were very similar, or the OpenGL were a little bit better. So there's something, at least for that kind of animation, that you might just want to consider just using standard Android canvas. The performance is very good. I could get up to, I think, about 60 frames a second, which is very good for the Google TV platform.
So Leon, which hardware did you use when you tried that out? Was that on the Intel-based Review, or was it the new ARM-based devices?
So I tried it on all my devices. I've tried it on the Logitech, on the Vizio, on the Sony. They were all very similar numbers. The Sony was a little bit better on the OpenGL, but still the OpenGL was about half the speed as the Android canvas animation.
So, all right, I got some follow-on questions. I haven't looked at your code yet, but so I guess what I want to know is what kind of movement was it? Was this 2D? What kind of polygons were you using? What sort of parameters did you put the GL state machine in when you were doing this animation?
So the code I used for testing this was released by Google, so you can go try it yourself. It's called Sprite Method Test. It's in there's a bunch of these Android apps that were open source. It's one of the standard ones. So it's not my code. It's Google's code. And so you can take a look at that. So a part of that code, when you run it, it actually gives you some data. It gives you the frame rate, it gives you various other parameters in terms of how quick the writes gets done to the screen and so on. For me, it was more important about the frame rate because I wanted it to be as smooth as possible. So yeah, if you want to dig into it, it's your own code.
I was going to say, awkward!
Exactly.
Somebody else in the company that you don't know must have written that.
There's somebody in the company you don't know?
Yeah, there's one or two people. Must be new ones.
There's a lot of us here, but ironic, though, that we find out about this way. But such is life.
So I also open source my code, so if you want to have a look at it, you can do that too.
Okay, no, that would be cool. I think that might be actually a good discussion point. Since we have Daniel on the line, Daniel, did you have any questions for us? Daniel's video feed.
Yes, I do. I find it difficult to activate my Google Hangout on my tablet is kind of mute. So I'm trying to find a way to adjust that. Just a second.
If you have a question, maybe then if you can't hear or you don't feel comfortable speaking it, you could always type it out and we can answer it that way. Otherwise...
I've got a question for you guys.
Okay.
So recently the YouTube feature was released that allows you to kind of fling content to Google TV, which is an awesome feature, just really excellent. One problem though is that when you select the device to send it to, it obviously gives you the list of all your Google TV devices on your network. But at the moment, it's labeling them all Google TV. So you don't know which one it's going to. And in fact, it seems somewhat random because every time you look at the list, it's not even in the same order, so you can't rely on the position to know where it's going. So you have to kind of go through the list in a hit and miss, until
You've discovered the Easter egg game!
Yes. Crispy, could you write that up as a bug?
I think somebody actually already mentioned that they would like to give a friendly name to their Google TV.
Oh, right. We're trying to fix that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be one way, because then the user can actually put something in if that's possible. But at the moment, it's just, even though it's a great feature, it's great for people with one device.
Cool. All right. If there's no more questions, which I'm just going to quickly check the post list here.
And see if Eduardo has any questions.
Sorry? Oh.
Eduardo just joined us. Maybe
Yes.
he has a question.
Eduardo, are you auditory? No?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Oh, he's typing. Hey, guys, he says, and more typing is happening.
Ah, okay.
No question.
Oh, okay. Well then, that brings us. Sorry?
Can I jump in again?
Yeah,
Sure.
Just one question. So are there any new APIs or things that developers need to know about as part of this version 3 rollout?
Yes. We're going to be really slow at releasing them, but there are some new APIs for dealing with media. Part of V3 included the ability to play MPEG-Dash. That was written entirely in the new APIs. Also includes PlayReady and smooth streaming. And so...
closed captioning, QoS.
Yeah. So all those will be coming out. If you need something in that list specifically, you're welcome to write one of us at Google or at our email addresses, Lesvie at Google, Crispy at Google, CGK at Google, and we'll get you some information. But otherwise, we'll probably publish something. My guess is it'll be the beginning of the new year. But if you need something now, let us know.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
You're sighing, Christian.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I gave his email address out publicly.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, I always like more email. Just joking. No, I think some of the APIs are interesting for developers, but the challenge is, for example, with PlayReady, it's the standard Android DRM framework APIs. The problem, the feature of the Android DRM framework is it's so generic. You can pass so many things to it.
It's a framework of frameworks.
Yes.
For frameworks.
So, and especially with PlayReady DRM, there is also a lot of different configurations for servers and so on. So you need to be effectively a PlayReady licensee to have access to all of the information that you actually need to use the framework successfully. So if you are a PlayReady licensee and you have all the information, we can help you plug it into the DRM framework and make it work.
Yeah. If you weren't a licensee, you probably wouldn't have PlayReady content.
Yeah.
I think one of the more interesting, wider APIs, though, is still the quality of service and being able to track your video and media playback capabilities and what have you. And, like one of my other favorite APIs, which I don't know, it's not V3 specific, the USB host?
No, it's not.
No? Okay. I just really like that API.
We've had a lot of people join, even though we're trying to wind up.
we always tend to get the most people joining right when we're wrapping it up. But let's see. So Eduardo, you don't have a question, and Marcelo, do you by chance have a question? I mean, we're literally just about to wrap this up here. Okay, Eduardo has one. He's typing.
Okay.
We have a question.
I would like to know.
My mic isn't working.
Building up the suspense.
Daniel, was that you speaking?
That's me. I'm on a Zoom tablet.
You're on a Zoom tablet.
But yes.
Okay.
So good that you can hear me. I was you mentioned before. Opengl has some of the drawbacks, like point really is.
You know what? It's too choppy. I really can't make out what you're saying. If you type it in the chat, we can go from there. So I'm going to answer Eduardo's question here. I would like to know about the emulator for Windows, if you guys have any news. Ah! My frustration is not at you, Eduardo.
I'll answer instead.
All right, Les, why don't you do that before I blow a casket?
Okay, so we have been within days of releasing the emulator for Windows and Mac for about a month. Which is why Crispy is somewhat frustrated. We're waiting for one bug to get fixed. As soon as it's fixed, it'll get released. It will be the final release in the 2X series, since it doesn't make sense to release it for V3, which is basically all media features, which wouldn't work on a emulator. So it's coming. We apologize. We understand the importance of getting this out, and we are close, is all I can say. Crispy vents his frustrations regularly in internal emails, so there's no need for him to do it externally. He'd like to see it.
Yes, you're probably right. I've actually had to write a few apology emails to people because I get so, I don't know, I just
Passionate.
I'm very passionate, and it's like I'm a very expressive person.
Coming soon.
Coming soon, yes.
I'm reminded of the movie Buckaroo Banzai, where one of the main characters is asked, "When are we going to Planet 10?" And his response is, "Real soon," or soon. And they ask, "How soon?" And he says, "Real soon." So I stepped on my own punchline. Okay.
All right, so Eduardo, you said you had one other question? About picture-in-picture.
Eduardo's got the good questions today.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I will remain calm. I will drink. Christian can answer.
I need to drink more heavily too before those.
Go on. No, I kid. Of course. Let's hear your question.
If maybe. No.
So, yeah, the picture-in-picture is. It's not going to be. There's no plan, there's no roadmap, there's nothing to announce of any capabilities where a developer is going to be able to use picture-in-picture in the way that I think everybody wants to use it. The why of it, it's clouded and murky, and I'm not going to rehash it, but yeah, the quick answer, as Les said, is kind of no. Sorry.
No. I mean, I can answer the why, actually.
Okay.
Even though Leon is open sourced a picture-in-picture thing, basically.
Thanks, Leon.
the roadmap for Google TV devices is how can we make them less expensive? I mean, that's the fundamental question. That doesn't mean there won't be really high-end Google TV devices. There will be, but we want to make the minimum Google TV devices as inexpensive as possible. So some of the hardware capabilities that would be needed to bring picture-in-picture to developers might not be on some devices. And so that it's kind of just the way it goes. That said, take a look at what Leon just posted in the chat links.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look and see what can be done there.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've had a pretty good hangout this time around. So we've gone for about 45 minutes. I am going to wrap it up here, mainly because Christian and I have a lot of work we have to do on our slides, and you know, time is quickly running out, and we have other interruptions constantly. So thank you all for joining us. I hope everyone's enjoying sort of the way we're organically formatting the show. I guess if you can call it a show. We kind of have news, demos, and then open discussion and questions.
Our weekly comedy show.
It's turning into that. I think we're going to have to get suits from the 70s next time and have a big game show board. Maybe we'll get like someone who can point at things.
No, we can just go back to the Mexican wrestling masks.
Yeah, I should bring those back in. Actually, I considered wearing my sombrero. So I bought a sombrero last time I was in Mexico. I haven't brought it in to wear it yet, but it was raining this morning and I didn't want to get it wet. Now it's sunny, ironically. But yeah, maybe we'll see what the new year brings. So just to recap, there will be one more hangout this year. We're going to do that in 2 weeks' time, and that'll be the last one for the year. And then we'll pick it back up in the new year. Possibly with sort of a weekly approach, but I think the bi-weekly is working out well, so I think we're going to probably stick with that for a bit. But send us your feedback if you have any. Thank you all again for joining us, and keep on developing. Ciao.
Aloha.